Hi, I'm Dave Boer. In this video, we'll review how the no-fault auto insurance reform law will affect the liability coverages on your Michigan auto insurance policy. Let's dive in. The no-fault reform law makes two changes to the bodily injury liability. As a reminder, this is your protection against lawsuits by someone who is injured in a car accident. First, the minimum amount of coverage someone can have is increasing from $20,000 per person and $40,000 for all people injured in one accident to $50,000 per person and $100,000 per accident. In addition, the state of Michigan is now recommending that everyone carry bodily injury liability limits of at least $250,000 per person and $500,000 per accident. Anyone who chooses to carry a limit lower than the state's recommended limit still can, but they'll have to sign a coverage election form to do so. If your current auto insurance policy has bodily injury liability coverage of $250,000 per person and $500,000 per accident or more, you only need to return the liability coverage election form that you'll receive from your insurance company prior to your renewal policy if you want to change your coverage amount. This slide shows how lawsuits from auto accidents are likely to change going forward. Currently, and after July 2nd, 2020, you can be sued for non-economic damages, which are also referred to as pain and suffering damages. They're hard to assess in terms of dollar values, but they can be very significant. Non-economic damages include things like wrongful death, loss of a bodily function, such as the loss of the ability to walk or see, and permanent serious disfigurement. Again, nothing about this is changing going forward. In addition, you can be sued for economic damages, which are damages that can be readily assessed in terms of dollar value. A common example is loss of wages. As we covered in another video pertaining to PIP medical expense coverage, everyone insured in Michigan has coverage under their own auto policy for 3 years of lost wages, up to about $65,000 per year right now, due to a disability from a car accident. But people who earn more than $65,000 per year or who are disabled for more than 3 years may have uncovered wages that will be added to their lawsuit against you. People have been able to sue for lost wages in the past and will be able to going forward, so that's not changing. What's different is, after July 2nd, 2020, some people will choose not to carry the unlimited PIP medical expense coverage that we've all had in the past. So they could have uncovered medical bills if they exhaust the policy limit they've chosen, or if they waived PIP medical expense coverage in order to rely on Medicare or health insurance. And remember, health insurance and Medicare don't cover attendant or skilled nursing care, so someone who relies on either of those instead of purchasing PIP medical expense coverage could have some significant uncovered expenses if they're badly injured in a car accident. The unfortunate result is that you may be sued for the injured person's uncovered medical expenses in addition to the other items they can include in their lawsuit. And our laws in Michigan allow an injured person to sue another driver for the same proportion of their loss as the other person was to blame for the accident. So, even if you're only 20% at fault in an accident, you could still be required to pay 20% of the injured person's uncovered wages and medical expenses. Because the no-fault reform law gives drivers the option to select a PIP medical expense limit other than unlimited, we expect lawsuits in the future to be larger and more frequent. Another change to the liability coverage on your Michigan auto insurance policy pertains to the mini tort coverage, which is referred to by some insurance companies as special tort liability or limited property damage liability. These three terms refer to the same coverage. Under our Michigan law, a vehicle owner is allowed to sue an at-fault driver to recover their uninsured collision damage. A person may have uninsured collision damage if they either chose not to buy collision coverage, which is commonly done on older vehicles, or if they have a type of collision coverage known as basic collision, which requires them to pay their collision deductible even when they're not at fault. Basic collision is also called regular collision or standard collision by some insurance companies. If you're the at-fault driver and the owner of the vehicle you damaged brings suit against you to pay for his uninsured collision damage, The mini tort coverage on your policy will pay for the amount of damage allowed by our Michigan law. Up until July 2nd, 2020, a person could only sue for up to $1,000 of their uninsured collision damage. After July 2nd, 2020, that amount is increased to $3,000. If you have this optional coverage on your policy, your coverage limit will automatically be increased to $3,000. If you don't have this coverage on your auto insurance policy, it's even more important after July 2nd that you have it. Again, depending on the insurance company, it's called mini tort liability, special tort liability, or limited property damage liability. Now let's take a few minutes to talk about our recommendations for your liability coverage. At Boer Insurance Group, we're recommending at least $500,000 per person and $500,000 per accident for bodily injury liability coverage. That has been our recommendation for many years. As I previously noted, we expect lawsuits to increase in size and frequency as a result of the No Fault Reform Act, so your liability coverage will be even more important going forward. We've also been recommending umbrella liability policies for many years to supplement your other personal liability insurance policies. Umbrella liability policies add an extra layer of lawsuit protection on top of your auto, home, boat, recreational vehicle, and other personal liability policies, and limits are available in increments of $1 million up to a total of $5 million, or up to $10 million in some cases. An umbrella liability policy usually costs about $175 to $300 per year for a $1 million policy limit, depending on the number of vehicles, drivers, properties, and other items that you own. It's impossible to know how much liability coverage is enough. It will depend on many factors that will only be known at or after the time of an accident, such as how many people are injured or die, the severity of the injuries, the amount of the projected lifetime earnings for those who become disabled or die, the amount of fault that is attributed to you, and other factors. So, we can't tell you how much liability coverage is enough, but we encourage you to buy enough coverage to meet your worst case scenario projection and which makes you feel secure. Umbrella liability policies are an excellent tool for doing this at a very reasonable cost. This completes our video on the changes to the liability coverages on your Michigan auto insurance policy. Check out our other videos on the personal injury protection medical expense coverage changes and how to complete the coverage election forms. Thanks for watching.